We're talking about half of all deaths among teens were gun-related. In 1993, 85% of 15 to 19-year-old murder victims were killed with a firearm. So 85% firearm. So where do juveniles get guns? This is the one that when we start talking about these problems, how do we get to a solution? How do we get to the place where we figure out, okay, here's something we can or we need to do?
Correct.
In November 1993, the ATF initiated a tracing program to identify the source of firearms recovered from juvenile offenders. So they started actively trying to figure out, where did this kid get the gun? When doing follow-up investigations, the ATF's tracing program also seeks to determine in which criminal activities were firearms used. So what type, was this a burglary, was this, and all that. So traces are initiated at the request of law enforcement. So ATF requires all agencies to do this. That's where they've collected this data. In 1993 and 94, the ATF conducted more than 3,800 traces of firearms recovered from juveniles. So this is at the very beginning of this curve. In most cases, juveniles were charged with weapons offenses such as illegal possession of a firearm. Of the total firearms recovered, 2,700 were involved in incidents that resulted in charges of weapons violations. So, like, the overwhelming majority of these were like, this is a big problem. These are illegally held and all that. The ATF also found 205 of these weapons were used in assaults, 199 in homicides, 156 in incidents involving narcotics, 98 robberies, 46 burglaries, 13 sexual assaults. So as we're kind of looking at this, we're like, okay, these aren't just like, oh, the kid had a gun, and these are like actively being used for criminal activities. So in 712 follow-up investigations to determine the source of the firearms recovered from juveniles. So what they did is they went and they just sat down with a kid and like, where did this gun come from? The ATF found that 27% of the juveniles had been given firearms by individuals other than their parents or guardians. So the street friend. 22% had obtained firearms in burglaries or other thefts. The investigations also found that 16% of the juveniles had purchased their firearms on the street, and 15% had taken firearms from homes. So when the ATF started getting this, only 20% of the firearms that they were able to trace could they not find out where they came from.